Hi, here's another game from round one of the Isle of Man chess tournament. With the white pieces, we have International Master Cornette. With the black pieces, Grandmaster, former World Championship contender Leko. E4, E5, Knight of 3, Knight C6, Bishop C4, Bishop C5. So we had the good old Gioco piano, castle, Knight F6, attacking the pawn, all well known. D3, castle, and now A4, A6, giving the bishop a place to go after white organizes this C3, D4 push, which is a major theme in the variation. Now we have bishop G5. There's several plans here for black. Sometimes black just allows the pawns to get doubled after knight E7. Not really worried about it. One of the plans, knight E7, knight G6, with the idea of playing C6, bishop E6, and D5 at some point. But here, Leko just opts for H6, challenging the bishop right away. Bishop goes back to H4, and now G5, which drives the bishop away. But of course, white has slight compensation in that the king side of black is now weakened, and this becomes one of the major strategic elements in the game. Now, in the Blitz game in 2016, Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces played the move knight takes G5, which is not really too sound, but in the Blitz game, he went for it against Hikaru Nakamura and soon came to a lost position, as he just did not have enough compensation. And soon Nakamura just basically was up a piece for the pawns and went on to beat Caruana. So the knight sacrifice on G5 is interesting, but this white does not have enough compensation. So bishop G3 is what is played. Now the bishop goes back to A7, anticipating D4, so that it will not come with tempo. Knight BD2, and now knight H7. This line is pretty much been shown in practice to be very, very good for black here. This knight drops back, and here we see this idea that white sacrifices a pawn here, and basically is to orchestrate an attack against the king based on the alleged, and I say alleged with quotes, alleged weakness of these two pawns. So e takes D4, knight takes D4, knight takes, e takes, and you see the pawn is hanging now, so bishop takes, and there's an attack against this pawn. So queen C2, and now king H8 by Leko. Now Leko wants to play this move F5, so he moves out of the diagonal. Alright, so that move has two purposes. One is to play F5, and the other is to kind of provide some more safety for his king. What Leko's idea is basically to push his pawns forward and use his pieces to shelter his king, which is interesting. If he can make it to an endgame, he will just be up material. So white must attack vigorously. So knight B3, bishop G7, rook A D1. There's F5, F4, F takes E4 by Leko, F takes G5, queen takes G5. Notice how the pieces, instead of pawns, are protecting the black king. Queen takes E4, knight F6, queen C2, bishop G4, and black has excellent development. So the onus is on white to, to show compensation for his material deficit here. He's down only one pawn, but this majority on the queen side looks menacing. It's 4-2 majority. And then it's questionable to how is black, how is white really going to attack black? Black is fully developed, and again, all the pieces are around the king. Alright, so this negates any attacking chances. Black has one pawn against on his king side, but it's perfectly safe. This initiates the transition to the endgame. And now here, Leko played natural move, bishop takes h6. This move is also interesting, creating a 4-1 advantage on the queen side, which I think is pretty overwhelming. This pawn is weak, and it's going to fall at some point. Okay, but Leko's move is understandable, just getting rid of a dangerous pawn around the king. So he plays bishop takes h6. Bishop h4. And white is hoping to penetrate on this rank right here. Bishop g7. Now he's attacking this pawn. Knight a5. Knight f6. And now white penetrates to the 7th rank. But does he have enough for the pawn? That's the question. Knight g4. Now keep an eye on this configuration. Notice how the knight is covering these potential escape squares for the black king. For the white king. So it's funny because even though the black king is the one without pawn protection, it's the white king that's coming under scrutiny here. White has to keep a lookout for this dark square bishop. Rook f7. That's just smoke and mirrors because black can just trade one of the rooks. Get rid of that danger. Okay, so white is slowly running out of pieces, but he has his rook on the 7th rank and he can start to chomp away at these pawns here. And he goes for it. Rook takes c7. Right, looks great. Tempo against the bishop, and it seems like he's finding, the compensation. However, his king is in danger. So first, bishop g6 is played. Now Leko missed a great opportunity with just bishop d4 check. And if king h1, bishop e6 with a double attack. Rook takes b7, and you just up a piece. b4 is pretty much the only move. And it's hard to, give white any type of advantage here. Black is just in the driver's seat. So I don't know if Leko missed that or he just rejected it. But instead he went for bishop g6. And so you're saying, why is he doing this? Well, the idea is, he's just trying to exploit this situation of the king not really having a safe place to go. If bishop takes g6, then this happens, bishop d4, and there's this mate threatened here. So the only thing left is bishop f2, and he loses a piece. So bishop c4, guarding this back rank. This, from the entrance of the rook. Check. King h1, and now we see the variation or analogous variation to what I showed you earlier, where black wins the piece. Rook takes. Bishop takes. Bishop e7. Now the rest, this is just desperation. Now, as black is winning, nice move, just gaining a full tempo against the bishop. And d5. this rook coming to the back rank is going to lead to checkmate. So therefore, after d5, Leko exploited the pin, and Cornette resigned. Okay, so let's sum this game up real quick. Nice game by Leko with the black pieces, but what did we see in that game? We saw White adopting the plan to provoke weakness, or again alleged weakness in the black position on the king side, provoking the moves h6 and g5, then sacrificing a pawn on d4 in order to become active. But then we've seen a great defensive idea, and this is a lesson that can be seen in many classical games of the past, and that is that it is not always necessary to protect your king with pawns. Okay, you can protect your king with pieces, and this is what Leko did to drive back White's attack. All right, just fast forwarding the position. You know, let's say here, this was kind of the apex of where Leko was just using his pieces, right, to not only fight his opponent, you know, for squares and territory and such, and develop, but they also protect the king. All right, and this is why White never had full compensation for the pawn sacrifices. That Black's king never came in any real danger. Now, of course, the variation is sharp, and you can see easily with all this development, bishops, each side having a bishop here, with one mistake could be fatal. But Leko gradually just outplayed his opponent, and as the pieces were swapped off the board, he just simply maintained his advantage of that one pawn. And even with Black coming to the 7th rank, now finally when he gained the pawn back, and this is the final theme I want to show and emphasize, is giving the pawn back at some point. Black never really went out of his way to hold on to the pawn, but notice when Black did give the pawn back that it was White who ended up in the ultimately lost position. Right, so White is down a pawn that whole time, doesn't really get the full compensation for the pawn, but then in order to get the pawn back, he has to destroy his position somewhat, and this is what happened. So now at this position, move 31, rook takes c7 is played, all the pawns are equal, but at the bishop g6, White is in dire straits. And now in the fitting ending, it is White's king now that comes under attack. Black winds up losing the piece. Knight on the rim is dim. And we see a simple tactic to finish the game with d5, as bishop takes d5 just simply leads to rook c1 checkmate, as these squares are all covered. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it was Cornette with the white pieces and Grandmaster Peter Leko with the black pieces. So please like, subscribe, donate if you have some extra cash. Appreciate it. And I hope you learn, you know, from these lessons. Alright, I'll see you in the next game.